Welcome, everybody. Welcome into 50 Toast every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. We're going straight through the holidays because we're lucky in how the holidays are falling. It's not an issue. The Christmas is the weekend and New Year's is the weekend. And so we're doing every Tuesday straight through. Don't nonstop. Tuesday nights right here. 9 p.m. Eastern, Facebook Live and Twitter. If one of them's glitchy, come find me on the other one. And actually, it's theoretically going live to YouTube as well, the Kostaki Economopoulos YouTube page. My guest is Jeff Oskay. Let's run through a couple of the housekeeping things. We do Quick Snaps, the podcast, every Monday night, right before the Monday Night Football game. There's only one Monday Night Football game left. I can't believe we had football at all this year, but I can't believe we made it to the end of the season. And last week they don't have Monday night, so this is the last one coming up. But we'll probably keep that same time slot, 7:30 Eastern. Mondays on the Quick Snaps outlets, Twitter and Facebook. You can come check us live, or you can listen to it the way you always do wherever you get your podcast. Quick Snaps the podcast. Go to patreon.com and type in Kostaki and figure out how to support this kind of stuff and some of the other things we're doing. Connect, and we thank you back with some cool perks. And you're supporting funny in a fucking weird ass time. I don't know if Patreon has rubber stamped that pitch, but that's my pitch. And come join us at All Pro Lines. It's a place for comedy and football and fun, and we're crowdsourcing joke writing. I didn't even believe that was going to be a part of the thing, and it's become a big part of the thing. So if you want to do that in particular, come do that. But you can be passive and just come enjoy the football comedy too. There's no pressure. But we are doing write a joke kind of things and rewriting memes together. And anyway, it's good fun. Come join us for all that stuff. Enough of all that. Happy holidays. I got my little sparkly thing on. My mom gave these out tonight when we did the cookies. Happy holidays, everybody, and welcome in Jeff Oskay. Yay! Look, I got
Oh, I like.
yeah. How about that, Jeff
like
Oskay?
that.
This is for if you say something that doesn't go over.
Oh,
That's what every comic wants on their little button right there, right?
have that on the ready.
Jeff Oskay is a great comic. I've known you for a long time, man, and I would like to open with a short anecdote that includes a big compliment. How's that?
Okay.
All right. We won't say the name of the place, but our last gig we did together, I was surprised by how big the budget was for the middle act on this show. And so when I heard what it was, I was like, oh, well, let me throw my friend Jeff Oskay a bone. It's an easy drive for him. And I'll get to work with someone I like. That's a easy win-win. And they said, yeah, all right, you can bring Jeff Oskay. And we went to do this casino. Now, for the non-comics out there who are watching, sometimes casinos are great, but sometimes they're fucking terrible because the people aren't really there to see comedy, and they got other things in their mind. They just lost, and they're busy. Comedy's not usually plan A in some of the casino situations, especially when it's a casino that doesn't usually have a comedy night,
Right.
and they're just setting it up. So they had this elaborate. First of all, they sold the show out like 6 weeks out. And I was begging them to add a show. I go, give us 50% of X for the second show. You could sell it a second show, and you could advertise that as being sold out. You're killing it with all this stuff. You're getting all these bodies in the casino. We get an extra show. We don't have to drive to another thing. They wouldn't do it. That was frustrating. Anyway, so we get there. There's this whole elaborate thing. It's like this pot roast dinner, and people are filing in. And it's a lot of these big shots that didn't pay because they're come to the casino and they get the perks and whatever. So that's strike one. They're eating and they got in for free. All right, that's never a good setup. And somehow, inexplicably, country music was playing through our set. They were unable to figure out how to turn off the music. They turned it down, but they couldn't turn it off, which was insane. And Jeff Oskay, for the first comic, did okay. It's fine. Impossible situation. No one heard of her, knew she was on the show, and the music's playing. And
Dude, I felt horrible for her. Like, remember, like, one of the songs was over, and it was like, oh, she can do her stuff now, and she starts into another bit, and then the music starts up again, and they hadn't figured out how to turn it down yet, so it was still really loud. And that was most of her set. And I just, oh, God love her.
So, Oskay, you went up. I know you're a good comic. I've known you forever, but I didn't expect you to plant your feet and do well in this situation. And you knocked it out of the park. It was an impossible gig, and
Oh,
you were
thanks.
really good, man. You were
Thank you.
really good.
That was a gig. Well, when you played the crickets thing, it reminded me I did an outside charity gig opening for Greg Warren, and it was
Mm.
supposed to start at 6 p.m. We finally get to the stage after they get some guitar player off around 9:30.
Oh,
We're
oh,
way late,
oh
and
my goodness.
the crowd's starting to thin out, and I go up and a couple things don't go over, and you could actually hear actual crickets like loudly. The cicadas were going nuts, and it made it even better. Like it
That's
was just
great.
like, oh yeah, actually I don't even need one of those little cricket things. This field is full of them. So
No,
that
you
was
were
fun.
great. It really stood out because the situation was impossible. Again, your names may or may not be on the ticket, but that's not why anybody's there.
Oh yeah,
And
nobody
your
get.
personality and it didn't seem like style wise it was going to be a good fit, right?
No, it was an older,
Right.
way older, I would say, right leaning crowd.
Right. And they're the
Um,
go-to gambler types and they got a free ticket and here we are. And I thought this could really go bad for Jeff. And no, you had him. In fact, I think I struggled to follow you.
oh,
They loved you. It was great. I was very impressed.
I thought the show beginning to end, minus the music, was great. I had fun
But
watching it.
I actually kind of like the first comic, and I thought you were great, and I was pretty good, and it was fine. By the end, it was one of those where you didn't feel like you killed when you left, but people couldn't wait to come over and tell you how much they enjoyed it. It was that show, right?
Isn't that always weird?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
on shows where there's so many times where I'm like, oh, they're gonna carry me out after here, and no one even makes eye contact with
right.
me. And then shows where I'm like, oh, I did okay, and we just had a delightful time. Thank you so much for coming here. And they're
That's
just
right,
overly gracious, and you're like,
right.
oh, I thought I did okay at best.
That's right. I
And
sold a bunch of CDs and was shaking hands for like 40 minutes. I was
yeah,
shocked. I was like, it
no,
seemed like
they
such
loved
a
you.
weird gig. Anyway, that's great. So glad you were able to do it. Hopefully someday we can do some more comedy.
That'd be great.
Have you done any, by the way? What's the story
No.
where you are? You're in Indianapolis.
Yeah, the last time I did a show, it was kind of like a closing out an open mic at like a wine bar in the basement. And it was one of those,
All
I was
right.
there and I'm like, should I even be here tonight? Like that seems sketchy to be out right now. It was like the end of March. And
Okay.
there's this really funny comic named David Brooks, and I was like, man, I don't know if I should even. I almost canceled tonight with the corona, and he goes, oh well, I'm black, so I don't have to worry about catching it. And I was like, oh okay, that's cool. And then
Oh,
I
it's March. We didn't really know all the
yeah
details just
yeah.
yet.
And then I saw him later. I was like, hey man, and he goes, yeah, I was wrong about that. I was like, yeah.
We were all sort of settling into the facts, of the
Yeah,
time.
and that was the last show I did, and it was for like 12 people, and 8 of them were comics.
That's
It
so
was
funny. The last time I did stand up live was in your state. I did the club downtown, the
Helium.
Helium, and
Yep.
then I did Sunday night in South Bend. South Bend was my last live show,
Oh,
like
nice.
mid March, the same kind of time frame of like it was like that week was like the jokes about coronavirus were killing because everyone was anxious, but nothing had really happened yet. And then like that next week, I was supposed to do 50 lunches. I was supposed to do one of my 50 lunches with Jimmy Pardo. He was my first cancellation. He was like, "Yeah, I'm not going outside this week."
Yeah, I don't blame. I mean, I shouldn't have.
I had the same thing where I didn't think I should go, but we had been knocking around trying to figure out a time that worked for both of us for months.
Right.
So I was like, we'll sit outside. We won't shake hands. It'll be the last thing I do for a while. And when he goes, yeah, I'm not coming, I was like, that's probably best. That's probably good.
Yeah, I did have a couple shows on the books, and both of them were like, "Hey, we're canceling," and I was like, "Oh, good. Now I don't have to, too.
Right.
Now I don't have to be the bad guy."
I actually didn't cancel a couple of things, and I just waited for their email to come in.
But it just sucks. Like my last show sucked. Like I
Yeah,
didn't
that
go
does.
out on a good show. You know what
Right.
I mean? I wish I
Yeah.
would have went out on like a high note
Oh, that
before.
hurts, and you got to wait a year to get that off of your soul.
Oh yeah,
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 that's right. Oh, that's brutal. I was lucky. I had a good one. I had a really fun night in South Bend. Um,
nice.
yeah. So I'm doing all. I was, back when I was doing comedy. I was doing those weird little self-produced shows, and sometimes those are in bad situations too. But everyone who's there came to see me on purpose. So even
Right.
if the sound is weird, it's usually a pretty good time. It's really
Yeah.
they let me do whatever I want, and they like me before I start, and those are really nice.
Yeah, I
Um,
just piggyback on people like you and Greg Warren,
but
and
it's harder because you have
piggyback
to
on
go
your
early.
guys' crowds,
Right? No, it
and
can be really good.
Donnie Baker.
I dragged McComas around to a dozen of those kind of things back in the day. He was one of my go-to, like, grab the guy and go on the road guys back. And yeah, it can be great, but it's also like they're not really there to see you, and sometimes you have to go up cold and do 40 minutes in a one-nighter bar.
Yeah, I honestly love that though.
Me too.
I'm like a good opener. I like going up. I like not following anybody, because then it's like, well, now I don't have to live up to anyone. I don't have to do better than that
Yeah,
person.
that's right. It
And
was fascinating. I went and had lunch. Here's a name drop for. I went and had lunch with Jake Johansson. He was one of my 50 lunches last year in LA when the
nice,
when the world was still open, and he had just gotten back off tour with Russell Peters, and he was describing the same thing, like as you are to me on the road, he is to Russell Peters, and they would go do these ridiculously fantastic, like gigantic arenas in Hong Kong or whatever, and Jake Johansson, who, you know, if, no disrespect to Russell Peters, who's great, is a much better comic than Russell Peters, right? Top to bottom. He might be one of the best comedians of all time. And I asked him this, I go, and I said some version of that to Jake, and Jake's very modest, like, yeah. But this is a different thing. Like these people come see him every 2 years, like clockwork. It's an event. They
right?
spend a lot of money. They can't wait. They've talked to their families about, like, he does not put a dent in Russell Peters' show. And Russell gets to, like, grab his heroes and drag them on the road. It's great for everybody involved. Jake gets this sweet gig, and they go travel around Asia for 6 weeks. It's insane.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, that's where it's at. Like, I mean, I don't get to do that, but I get to travel around the Midwest and bring my girlfriend. We get a
Right,
free weekend at the Holiday Inn, and
right,
we go out and have some dinner that's paid for, and I come home with a little money in my pocket,
right, right.
and we go see the world's largest chair and get our picture taken in front of it, and that's a fun weekend for us. Like, that's what I miss. Like, the comedy is just kind of like now is fun for me. Like, I don't throw up before I go on stage anymore. I like actually enjoy getting up and doing my thing, and
That's
then
interesting
getting
because
the
it's
hell
not
off.
the only thing, because you have other things. It's more of a lucrative hobby and a passion than it is a job. Is that what it is?
Yeah, well, I mean, I did it full time for a couple years, and I was like right at that level that, like, if anybody was gonna get bumped, it was gonna be me. And I just had my shit turned off too many times. Like, oh, next week I'm bringing in $1,000. Oh, no, you aren't. Well, I was depending on that to pay all my bills for that month, and now I am having my electricity turned off tomorrow.
Right.
And it was just me, I didn't give a shit. But once I had a kid, I can't. you know what I mean? Like I couldn't do that anymore.
Right.
So, but I did it full time, and I wrote for Bob and Tom at night. I did it full time. I think I made it like 4 years, and then once my son came along, I started landscaping and shit to pay bills, and then I would still do comedy every other weekend when he was with his mom.
Okay.
So I still got on the road like 2 times a month,
Okay.
year round. But and now I couldn't be happier that I'm not a full time comic. Like
Right.
I have Bob and Tom. So now, honestly, when I do get offered gigs during the pandemic, I'm like, hey, I got a million friends who don't have a Bob and Tom gig. Offer one of them the job.
Right.
Like,
And
see
they're
if they
single and
want to do it.
they don't have a wife and kid to bring Corona home to. Right. It does seem like there's a big divide in the, yeah, I mean, in the world, so it's not surprising, but there are some comics that are out constantly. I constantly see they're going to this club and this thing and doing this, and most of the guys I know, I have not seen a single announcement from them for a year, you know. It's interesting. There's such a split.
I would feel so horrible if, like anyone, I'm not saying anything that is worth someone coming and getting sick and then getting someone else sick.
Yeah, right.
Like if no one hears my comedy for the next 2 years, the world's still gonna be just fine. Like it's not. And I know deep down inside I'm not responsible for anything bad happening.
Right, right. Yeah.
That being said, I am not a full time comic with a wife and kid at home
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
who needs to pay bills or they're gonna lose their house.
Right. That's
Like
why I'm not
I would
judgy
be
about it.
viewing it totally different if I
Right.
had different
Yeah, it's
circumstances.
that's right. It's a tricky thing. I mean, whatever. We're comics. We'll be okay eventually, but everyone has some version of this that they're trying to fight through and figure out and make the judgments and whether or not to see grandma and, whether you have dinner with your brother. I mean, all this stuff is hard for everybody. It's been a crazy year, man. This will be the first time that I actually give a shit about the calendar turning to another year. I know it's just symbolic, but it's like for a comic, like I don't have any like warm fuzzies about New Year's. It was just a great night to be working as a comic, for 25 years. I just worked on New Year's.
And it paid well.
It pays great. And it's, like if I was working on Christmas Eve or something, that would feel weird to me. That's just my thing. But
Right.
I don't feel like, like, oh, I'm not home for New Year's. This is a Travis. Like, I never gave a shit about New Year's. I'm happy to be out and helping other people have a party night out. That's great to be a little piece of that. It's fun. I'm
Oh
all
yeah.
for that. Yeah,
Yeah,
but this year I'll
I
be like,
love
oh,
New Year's Eve shows because
oh,
no
it's
one
a
gives
new
a
year,
shit.
right? It's a little nutty.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're tricky because they're amateurs. These aren't the people who are out drinking and going to shows all the time. These are the special occasion people. They're not quite as good at it.
Well, luckily, that's the other reason I like being the opener. It's like, oh my God, these guys are a bunch of fucking idiots. I'm glad I don't have to do an hour. I'm glad I'm out of here in 15 more minutes.
Good luck, Stuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
See you
Have fun with
later.
that, buddy.
That's funny. That's funny. All right, so you gave us a little background. So get us to Bob and Tom. Did you do Bob and Tom as a stand-up several times before you ended up in the sort of slowly becoming a part of the machine? Give me the chronology here.
So I started doing stand up because I worked in a bar in Indianapolis as the kitchen manager, and the guy who owned the bar, his name's Chick Perrin, and he used to own the comedy clubs here in Indianapolis.
Chicken Patty.
Chicken Patty. So I worked for them, and every day during lunch, he would do dishes, and I worked on the sandwich station, and he would just tell me story after story after story for years of Tim Allen and Brad Garrett and Drew Carey. Oh, Drew Carey used to drive over and MC my shows for 50 cents. I'd pay him 50 cents and a corn dog, and he was happy to do it. And, he would have all these great stories, and I always loved stand-up comedy, and I always watched it, but I'd never like been to a club or anything. Like, I just watched it on TV. And Jimmy Pardo was coming to town, and he goes, have you ever seen Jimmy Pardo? You and your lady, you're coming with me and Patty. You got to go see Jimmy Pardo. So we went out to Dave Wilson's old place, One-Liners.
Oh, wow.
And Jimmy Pardo was the first stand-up I ever saw.
That's pretty good one right out of the gates.
And I'm with Chicken Patty, so he's talking to us. Like, he's ripping on our table. You know what I mean? Which is the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. Like,
right.
I've never seen anything like this. And I left there and I go, I got to do what he does. That's awesome.
We're all still trying to figure that out, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like a month later, I went to Chick and down in the basement of the Old Point Tavern. I was like, hey, I think I'm going to try stand-up comedy. And he goes, oh, you're going to suck. And I go, oh, because we were friends. Like, I thought he would be super supportive of me. And he goes, you realize you got to like write jokes and shit, right? And I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm and he goes, well, you got all the hang-ups and addictions of a stand-up. Now you just need some fucking jokes. And
it's a funny pep talk.
Yeah. 2 years later, I'm still doing open mics, and he calls me one night, and he goes, you're writing all the time, and you should write for Bob and Tom. And I go, yeah, I'll call Tom and tell him I should write for their show. And he goes, well, he owes me a favor. I'm going to call him and tell him you're going to write for his show.
Oh, that's great.
All right. So he did, and then I started writing for the show.
Wow. So what does that look like at the beginning then? You're like emailing jokes on several topics. Like, I kind of know the answer to this, but tell us exactly so the people watching know what's going on here.
So with with that, he calls me, he goes, here's Tom's number, give Tom a call. I call Tom, and he goes, yeah, I'm in the middle of doing an album. Give me a call in like 4 months. And I go,
for real? That was your first talk?
Yeah. And I go, okay. So I mark 4 months on the calendar. I call him in 4 months, and he goes, hey, my lady's pregnant, and I'm dealing with that right now. Give me a call in like 4 months.
Dealing with that.
I don't know if he said it exactly.
Yeah.
But
it's just funny that's the memory in your head.
I have other stuff that's way more important than giving you a writing job right now.
Yes, of course.
So in the meantime, I have my son, and I'm watching him. My wife is teaching yoga that night, and I get a call out of nowhere, and it's Tom, and he goes, hey, I just had a dinner meeting fall through. Meet me at this place in Broad Ripple in like an hour. And I go, okay. And but I had a baby, and so I went to my next door neighbors, and I was like, hey, will you watch the baby? I have a job interview. So I met him, and we had like a half an hour dinner, and he goes, yeah, just I guess start sending me jokes. And I go, okay, how do I do that? He goes, here's my email. And I go, okay. And he left, and I had no idea what to do.
Wow, that's fascinating.
So I started, I would find like news stories and send him the whole news story, and then like just write little jokes in the margins kind of thing.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's what I would want if I were him.
And I did that for like a year, and then he never would write back. Like I just said
the worst. Stuff. You're like, I don't know. It's just like you're just sending it into the ether. Like you have no idea if he even sees them.
So we have like a luncheon. I get invited to a writer's luncheon, and I realize that, there's a bunch of writers, and no one knows who the fuck I am. And they're like, who's this homeless guy? And of course, that's how Tom, hey, The guy over here, he's not homeless. He's one of the new writers, and he still introduces me that way 12 years later. He's not homeless. I was like, yeah, man, we all know each other. But so
He likes an archetype. He likes a storyline. Yeah.
So after the meeting, he comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, the way you're submitting jokes, I don't like the way you format it. Like, don't do it like that." And I go, "Okay, how should I do it?" And he goes, "Just write them all at the end, and don't use whatever typeface you're using. I hate it. Like, don't use that either."
Comic Sans? You're sending all your jokes in Comic Sans?
No, I was sending them in Tahoma. Or Tacoma, I don't know. It's how I used to always write. I like the font style, and he hates it. So, but the whole time I'm like, you could have told me this at any time over the last 12 months. Like, just emailed back, like, don't use that font type. And the whole time I'm like, I've just been pissing this man off every day for the last 12 months by sending him shit in the wrong format, the wrong font type.
That's on him. It's hilarious. So you had never done the show as a stand-up. You weren't even really a comic yet. It was that early.
Well, and that's the thing. I was still like in one of the, hey, call me back in 3 months kind of thing. And Ruth Ann got me the show. And I go, no, I don't want to go on.
And goes, you're afraid
but I got you the show. And I go, no. They've never seen me. I can't, if I go on, I can fuck up. I can fuck this up. Like right now, I had submitted some sample jokes to him that he liked. So I didn't want to screw it up by going on.
Right. That's interesting. Oh,
so
wow.
Then I went on like 2 years later, but I had been writing, which you wouldn't have known I wrote for them the way like Tom could not have been less helpful my first time going on. Just like, ridiculed the way I looked the entire. I'm like, I work for you. Like, you're supposed to be like. Man, it was tough. It was a rough first go on the show.
That's really funny. So but that's morphed. Now you do this whole other sea of things. So give me the chronology. So you're basically emailing jokes daily, and then what happens next?
That kind of so I started writing like I started sending a lot of bits, like fake commercials and stuff, and some of those were starting to get made. I wrote like a Mr. Obvious that they made that got played like twice and no one's ever heard it, and I've like there's like 30 Mr. Obviouses and there's like 5 that we play on the show.
Right.
They have so much material. But yeah, I wrote a fake. It was when Jane Fonda said the word cunt on air, and I wrote a bit called a new perfume from Jane Fonda called Contagious.
Nice.
And they played that a couple times. And I just got, and then I started writing for like some of their calling characters every once in a while, and that would get used here and there. And I did that for years, and then I saw Jeff Vibert was leaving on Twitter, that he was going to Barstool.
Right.
And I immediately like texted Tom, and I was like, I want Jeff Vibert's job. Please, I'm going to kill myself if I have to landscape another summer. Please let me have Jeff Vibert's job. And he called me and he goes, we don't pay Jeff. Like you won't, like you have a family. You can't.
You still have to landscape.
Yeah, like it's not going to work out. And I was like, no, I do a lot of stand up. Like I just need, whatever you're paying him, I'll gladly do it for that. And but he and then when I found out the number, I was like, oh, that's great. I'll gladly do it. So he's like, do you know anything about editing? And I was like, oh yeah, I've edited like a couple of videos on like 2 I edited on iMovie like 12 years ago. Like, and no one ever saw it. And it was just my stand-up that had like a title come up that said Jeff Oskay. So I could send it out. I totally lied and was like, oh yeah, I can edit. And so day one, Chris Spangle, I'm like, all right, he goes, okay, so this needs to be made into a clip and this needs to be made into a clip. And I was like, so what program am I going to use? He goes, I thought you knew how to edit. And I go, well, I mean, I know the concept of how to edit. And so, I mean, it would take me 4 or 5 hours to edit like a 3-minute video when I first started.
Right.
And now I edit their entire TV show in like 3 hours.
Right.
Every night. So
That's
I've gotten
great.
a lot better in 3 years.
You know what? I had a moment with Tom where he said, "Can you do this?" And I go, "Yes, I can." And I definitely could not.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I had a thing where I basically did a bunch of the jokes that I'd written for the complete sheet. It's like a radio prep service, and whatever, the stars aligned, and I did it as a segment called topical sounding jokes. These are jokes that sound like they're from this week but aren't.
I love it.
So it's just an excuse to do like my best 20 jokes from the prior 2 years, basically. And the stars aligned and it killed. And Tom pulls me aside. He goes, "Can you do that every week?" And I was like, "Yes, I can." And of course, I had just done my best 20 jokes that I'd written in 2 years. But that's how the Econo monologue started, basically.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things on the show.
Thanks, man. I love that you had a similar moment of like bullshitting your way into the job and then learning it, figuring it out.
So I don't have permission to share this, but I found out this the other day. So Tom on air is always talking about his cake lady.
Yeah.
And she was in the other day and we're like, how did you get so good at making, like, how long have you made cakes? Like, these are great. Like it's amazing.
They are amazing cakes. Yeah.
And she goes, oh, I'd never made a cake before. And Tom asked if I could make cakes. And I said, yes. And because I didn't want to disappoint him. And so I learned to make these cakes. She had never made a cake before
Everyone
Tom
has this experience with Tom. They just bullshit him and start figuring it out.
But I heard that through the hallway, and I kept running down the hallway. I'm like, I lied to get my job too. Like,
that's so funny. That's great. I love it. So now you do like a zillion things. Now you're doing the videos for Instagram, and you put the show together that goes on TV, and you're packaging the stuff that goes on Facebook. Are you doing all of this stuff?
Yeah, pretty much. And then I also I write for Tom as well. Like every morning, I get there like an hour. Well, I get up at 4 every day, and then Tom will text me like, "Hey, I have this idea." Or I'm working on this or this script. I just sent it to you. So I'll work from my garage where I'm at right now for till 4:45. I jump in the shower and then go in and do like 45 minutes worth of just like monologue writing for the news stories for the day.
Right.
Which I send to Tom for him to pick and choose if he wants to use them.
Right.
And then I switch the cameras all morning and then, watch our Twitter along with...
Oh, you're literally going, oh, this is a chick shot. You're changing it live. You're the director of the video side of things. Right.
For 4 hours, I live switch the entire show. We only record what I am live switching. So
that's really important.
We have 8 cameras, but we only record one output.
So you can't go back and go, that was a really good Nick Griffin laugh. We got to get him in the shot. That's gone.
Yeah, no, it's screwed.
Oh, that's interesting.
I'm too late. Yeah, so a lot of times if you're watching your thing and you're like, that's a weird cut, why did they keep it like that? Well, I don't have anything else to use. It's
right.
And something as simple as I just got a twitch in my finger and hit the wrong camera real quick. And it's like, oh well, I just ruined that entire thing. I can't use that tonight. So sometimes, depending, I can go. That's the problem, is usually whoever the camera is on is talking, so I don't have a lot of just reaction shots of people just sitting there listening where I
Right.
can like, oh, I can go steal that and just lay that over the top of this bad thing that where I accidentally switched on
Right. Right.
Christy while she was yawning during, someone's Zoom
Right.
call.
Greg Hahn's jokes.
He's actually, you and him are two of the most fun Zoom calls because like you guys get into it and stuff, and like it's so funny to me. Like some of them are just
Hahn
some
on
of the
Zoom's
Zoom
got to be
calls are,
great.
oh, he'll be playing ping pong when he answers. Like there's
Really?
no, oh yeah, there's no telling. He's so all over the place.
He's embraced it. He's embraced the Hondas. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I love that. That's great. All right. So then, so mentally in your head, you're like, this is okay. This is the chunk we're going to come back to and grab for are you doing that kind of writing / editing as you're doing the directing?
Yeah. Well, I used to keep it. Now I have an intern that keeps it. We keep like a minute by minute log of everything that happens all morning. And then you highlight, oh, if you highlight it yellow, this would make a good audio clip. If you highlight it green, that would make a good video clip.
Okay.
If you highlight it, this, it means don't use it ever. Let's erase it from history so no one can find it and replay it anywhere. And then what I'll do is I'll go back. So as soon as the show's over, I go and pull the tapes, and then it takes maybe about a half an hour for all the video to load up to my Mac to edit. And in that time, I'm going through the log going, oh, we'll start with this, then we'll go to this, and then we'll have that, and then we'll end the show with this. And then I'll go through, and sometimes it's like, oh, this will be perfect. And then you watch it and you're like, oh, this wasn't as funny as I thought it was.
Oh, I was wondering that. Yeah, that's interesting.
4 hours ago, this seemed hilarious. And now when I'm watching it, I don't know why I thought it was that hilarious.
That's interesting. Do you have the opposite too, or something you barely even wrote down and then you watch it, you're like, oh, this is great?
Sometimes when I'm basically looking through trying to find a specific clip, I'll accidentally land on something else where everyone's laughing. I'm like, wait, what was that? And I'll go back and be like, oh, that's even better. I'll use that instead of. But it has to be exactly like a 30-minute show with 4 2-minute commercials like worked into the editing. So whatever clips I have to total up to 22 minutes. And so like the other day I had 4 great clips and they totaled up to like 21 minutes and 22 seconds. And it was like, well, don't have more video. Like I have to go pick a different clip or make this clip a little longer. Which then, they're doing a live read commercial, so I can't make it any longer.
Right.
So little shit like that I'm learning. But
yeah, that seems tricky, man. That's so fascinating. There's a lot going on there.
I met with a TV guy the other day who gave me like 1,000 notes of everything I'm doing wrong. But all good. Like all like, oh great. Yeah. That would make more sense doing that like that. I will do that. Or
give me one example of that. Is it too technical to even think of?
Like teasers into the next, like coming up next, and then pulling something out of context and playing it as a teaser to make them want to sit through the commercial to see what they were talking about.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But the more out of context and wild the comment seems, the more someone will want to come back and sit through that commercial to see what they were talking about.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Even if it has nothing to do with what the segment is at all.
Right.
To try to find that 10-second out of context thing that is going to pique someone's curiosity to make them want to come back.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. That's cool. are there certain guests that you look forward to having, or are there certain kinds of things that are easy to deal with from your perspective, or hard to deal? Like, what are the good days? Like, if you see on the schedule, like, oh, it's
Well,
I
I
don't even
mean,
know. Like, what's good and bad for you?
all of like all the regular. I mean, Allie is always going to be a good chunk. I can always use yours. I can always use Allie's. I usually use some of Al Jackson's. It depends on how it goes weird places some days. And I'm a very oversensitive kind of like I have a bunch of very woke teenagers who
Oh yeah,
I feel like I'm very woke until I talk around them and like
yeah.
I forget what I said the other night. Oh, I my daughter had these big spiral curls and I was like, "Oh, those look like a Hasidic Jew."
Yeah.
And my other daughter, why would you? And I go, I'm not insulting her. Have you seen his? Like they have the same. I'm not even putting anyone down, but they were so offended that I said her curls were like that of a. So and then on some of Al's stuff, I'm just probably oversensitive because I got 3 woke kids that are up my ass about everything anymore. Oh my God. I'm not offending anyone. I have no problem with anyone. I think the curls are great. I'm just making a comment.
I get a little of that from the 12-year-old. I'm like, wow. I mean, they're training them super woke now. That's for sure.
Well, my kids' big thing now is what are you up to? Doing your mom. What?
Just to
Yeah,
torture them.
just doing your mom. Oh, okay. They, for some reason, everything is doing my mom now. From all 3 of them, and they think it's hilarious, and I don't think it's funny in the least bit. I'm like, you're talking about your grandmother, like, and they're like, now you made it gross.
Ah,
Like we were just saying, doing your mom, you had to turn it all gross. It's, okay, I give up. I'm so old, dude.
okay.
Okay. Like, do you find that with your 12-year-old that you're just like, I give up? Like,
I have had a couple of conversations where I have the same thing, almost the same construct that you laid out. Like, I think of myself as being very thoughtful and progressive about, where we are and who we are in the world and being kind to people. And she will like outflank me sometimes where I'm like, wow, I did not see that coming. Yes. Yeah. I mean, she's in a private school in LA. So, some of the kids have 2 dads and the kid, everyone's very open about all this stuff. It's transgender, like they have these big conversations. You're 12, like you don't even know what gender is yet. Just wait a second. So I've become a little bit of the stodgy, like
Well, the big thing around our house now is my oldest really she's taking intro to engineering at her school and she wasn't excited about it. Like she got stuck in it because the class she wanted wasn't available. And I was like, "Oh, do you like it?" And she goes, "Oh yeah, the first thing the teacher did was have us tell us what pronouns we wanted to be addressed as." And I was like, "Wait,
oh.
what?" And
Right.
well, the teacher asked each one of us what pronouns how we wanted to be addressed,
Yeah.
and so I like that teacher because he respects
Right.
people.
See, I've gotten some of that from Ava. I've just been like, okay, all right. I mean, I like the idea of where it's going. I'm just surprised that some of these are very adult concepts for a 12-year-old to get your head around.
Oh, I get it. And then I do have questions, like because I do like I don't want to be my dad. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
don't
I
want to
know,
be the
right?
well. In my
Nobody.
day, a man was a man, and a
Right. That's right. That's right.
and so, but then almost just by asking questions, I can tell I'm annoying them.
Yeah, I
And
know.
like, so if they go by they, how do I say they? So, hey, they want, I guess that does make, and they're like, you're making it too complicated. And I'm like, So
It's not
he could
plural.
go
It's
by
one person.
they.
Why
Yeah,
was it
exactly.
they? Right.
Exactly. And I'm honestly just trying to ask questions because I do want to be respectful, even
Right.
if I don't understand it.
Right. Right.
And then they just think they're just like, oh, look at this old son of a
I
bitch.
know.
He's never going to figure it out.
One day Ava came home and was telling me that Dr. Seuss was racist, and I was like, "No, Dr. Seuss with the Sneetches and some of them have start. He's the opposite of racist. He's one of the most thoughtful, progressive." No, he used to draw these cartoons, and I like researched it. And we have this ongoing argument about Dr. Seuss's racism. He,
And what's
I will say this: pre sort of the stuff that we know, he did do some cartoons that are a little wince-worthy now, with like the slanty eyes Japanese warrior and like some African tribes like boiling a white guy. There's a couple of those where you go, yeah, but again, it's of the time, and he clearly cleaned up his act after that. He was definitely a force for good, broadly in his career. Give the guy a break. I don't know.
didn't I always heard he hated children?
Really?
I'm not even making this up. Like that he hated. That's why in all of his books the kids are being tortured and bothered and annoyed.
That would be hilarious if that were true. I
I
didn't find that in my light research, research.
I'm not making this up. Like I honestly believe this to be a truth. Like I
Well,
believe Tom Griswold told me this.
either way, he's a crazy genius, and
Yeah.
his stuff holds up, and it's got so much depth to it. I'm a Seuss fan. I deny the racism. His calls of racism because of some shitty cartoons back in the day with some black people with big lips. Like, give the guy a break. He's learning how to cartoon, and it was 1941 or something. I don't know.
Of the time.
Yes,
That's
I
what
mean, again, that doesn't. I'm not defending those kind of cartoons, but I am saying like let's have some context and give the guy a break based on his later work, which was fantastic and very progressive. Anyway, get me arguing about Dr. Seuss all over again. Let's go to the board here. I've not done a good job of this. We got people ask questions, they have comments. Let me look through some of these. People are saying, "What's up, Jeff?" Ron Milford's in the house. Hey, Ron, he's a big supporter. Grant, what's up, Grant? Love some Jeff Oskay. Can you talk about why they pulled the YouTube stream? All right, that's a specific question for you.
We pulled the YouTube stream because we have no control over YouTube and we have control over our website. So we constantly, because of the coronavirus, we and everybody was out of work. At first, we started putting Bob and Tom on YouTube for people to watch live.
Right.
Previous to that, you could only view it on video by subscribing to the VIP at Bob and Tom. We put it on YouTube. We figured the thing would last 2 months and everybody would be back to work and we would be off YouTube and it would go back to the VIP, the people who pay us money every month to have to be able to do this. And now all these people were watching for free, which was fine. That was great. We were offering it kind of as a gift to help get through the virus.
Right.
In that meantime, of course, we have VIP members that expect, that pay money every month for this privilege. And so but it basically comes down to when you have something on a YouTube or a Facebook, you have no control over it. You have no control over what they pull, what they monetize, what they approve, what they don't approve. There's no one you can call at YouTube and be like, hey, why did you just demonetize this video? Like, there's not a phone number. Like, you can't,
Right.
You know what I mean? And there are tons of channels every day on YouTube that all of a sudden YouTube no longer, oh, you violated our term of service. You no longer have a channel here.
That's
And
right.
you just lost 900 videos or 9,000 videos, and you can't access them again. You can't touch them again. And there's just nothing you can do about it. You have no control over what now. Instead of just going VIP, we're now offering it for free on bobandtom.com/live every day. So people can still go and watch. The people who watched it on YouTube and got used to watching it for free, the VIP subscribers will still be able to watch it and pause it and advance. This way we control all of our data of all the people who watch our show. YouTube isn't getting all that data for free. Like, that's what, every time you watch a YouTube video, like, YouTube is logging you watching that video, and they know what ads to aim towards you, and they have a ton of data about you. And basically, by us putting videos on YouTube, we're giving them data to your data to mine by you watching our videos.
Right. That's right.
We want your data. We don't want to give that to YouTube. That data's worth a lot of money. We want that for us. We want to be able to sell our own ads and not rely on YouTube. And basically it came down to my boss goes, hey, we aren't doing this anymore. And I go, oh, okay, boss, who pays me my check. We won't do this anymore.
That's right.
That's right. And people are very up in arms over it. There's a lot of people who are upset about it. I get it. At the same time, it's like me going into, Marsh and being like, why the fuck are the carrots $4 today, Pam? And it's like, I don't know. Somebody way above me makes decisions I have no control over. I assume it's because of money. And you go, oh, okay, well, you suck. I liked them better when they were $3. And she's like, I'm sorry, I just work here and I put them on the shelf. I have no control over cost.
No, I think I think your explanation was perfectly good. You guys want control over it. And sometimes these giant organizations, like you said, they're unreachable. I'm on some wackadoo, Facebook prison right now that I have no understanding, these things. And you're right. There's no one you can just call and they fix it.
Right.
Oh, Meg Drake's on here and she said Trop. She recognized the beer can. This is a local brewery doing a terrible job. Creature Comfort. It's Tropicalia. I've just discovered this in the last quarter or so. Apparently this is a big hit beer. It's from Athens, Georgia. Christy Lee's on here. Two of my favorite people, she says, with exclamation points. Look at that. My mom's watching. Hey, Mom.
I told my girlfriend she could watch from inside, and she goes, yeah, I got some Outlander to catch up on. Okay.
I get it. I totally get it. Christy says, I can't believe you have to watch and pay attention for 4 hours.
I know.
That's great.
I love
it. That's cool that people are commenting and saying hi to each other in here. That's nice. We appreciate the support, guys. You guys are awesome. If you have any other questions for Jeff, pop them in here. We're gonna let him go here in a sec. Let's see if I have any other questions for you. I think we backed into everything that I had on my list to talk to you about. Let's do a quick plug while we got a sec here. Dockheads podcast. You watch a documentary and review it. That's something that you were doing with McComas, and you're bringing it back in a couple of months, kind of under your own domain.
I think me and Jessica Olsman she was part of it before, and I think we're bringing it back. Todd's working on a bunch of new projects, and so yeah, and I shaved like an idiot because I'm putting out. I do a character named Ed Septic who last year we had to have our septic dug up, and we had a bunch of machinery out in the backyard for like a week. And so after the guys would leave, I would go out and record videos on their machines as this guy who does septics for a living. And The guys who were doing our septic ended up loving them and sharing them with all the septic people. So they actually kind of went like viral in the septic community
That's
as
very specific.
yeah. But I mean, it ended up getting shared like thousands of times because
Wow.
of and which was hilarious. So
Wow.
I'm on vacation for 2 weeks, so Ed Septic is coming back, and he's going to teach you how to 3 easy steps to fix your garbage
This
disposal.
crazy thing on your face, it's you're doing some character work. You're
That's
doing.
you got to have it to be Ed Septic. That's all part of the. Oh, my girlfriend, when she woke up today, she was so pissed. She goes, "Oh my God, Ed Septic's back." I was like, "Yeah, I'm sorry, baby." So yeah, so look forward to that on my Twitter and my Instagram. Sometime in the next week, there will be a new Ed Septic video.
We're getting lots more comments now that we've asked for some. Yes, Ed, this person knows you. Two of my favorite Bob and Tom special guests. Hey, dude, just saved me from watching a really horseshit Netflix movie.
Nice.
This is from a buddy of mine, Dan Coffin. What's up, Dan? Coffee says, both guys, favorite joke you've written lately and favorite joke you've heard? Oh, that's a good question. You got an answer to that off the top of your head? I have I'll start because I have one half of that immediately. I've been doing this thing on All Pro Lines. All Pro Lines, come join the fun. It's comedy, football, and they're together, and it's at All Pro Lines. Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So we've been having people submit jokes and write jokes. So we'll do fill in the blank jokes and rewrite memes. A guy wrote a joke this week, Jeff Manier, the All Pro Line joke of the week. I think it's the joke of the year by the fans so far. Let me see if I can pull it. If I could pull it up quick, that would be convenient. I don't want to murder it. Okay, I can't pull it up quick, which means I might murder it, but it's great. When the Falcons in the fourth quarter, when the Falcons are drawing up their X, do they use X's and O's or do they just use a bunch of Y's?
Like
WHYS. That's a good joke.
I
hate when there's a joke so good. I'm like, how come I didn't write that?
I'm trying to think. You would think I actually just wrote a bunch this morning, and you would think I would have a joke. But what was I was reading old Playboy jokes the other day. Like because I was trying to write for this character, kind of does like a folksy kind of old timey joke telling. So yes. I was trying to watch old time, read like those kind of street jokes, you know what I mean? Kind of.
Yes.
And there was one, and it goes, a man's shaving in the mirror, and his wife gets out of the shower, and he realized, and she's completely bald down there. And she goes, I shaved down there. You know what that means, right? And he goes, I'm gonna have to clean out the drain again. I think snake out the drain again. Oh, it was snake out the drain again. Oh no, that made me laugh. As a 47-year-old man, that made me laugh.
Here's a joke I wrote this week that made my wife laugh. That's always fun. The Jaguars are ahead of the Jets in draft order because of the tiebreaker, which I can only assume is who has the worst green in their uniforms. You're a football team wearing teal. What are you, an 80s prom dress? Is there a matching teal cummerbund that comes with the... My wife laughed hard at that, so that's always fun when you can make the wife laugh.
I made my my friend, my left-leaning friend laugh last night with I go, if you really think about it, Trump brought way more Democrats out to vote than any Democratic candidate ever has.
Yeah, that's right.
There's
the most in American history, actually.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's technically true.
Everyone who came out to vote on both sides, he brought out.
Yes, it's all his doing. That's right.
He should take credit for every one of those. I get all votes both sides. I brought him out.
That's right. That's funny. I always think of Scott Van Pelt had this great line about Jameis Winston. He goes, he keeps both teams in the game. It's such a great. It's kind of true of Trump too with the voting. Christy Lee says, I love Ed.
Oh,
All right.
she's so sweet.
She's great. We love Christy Lee. Thanks for being here. That's very nice. Happy holidays, Christy. Happy holidays to everybody. Thanks to everybody for being here. We appreciate you guys doing this. These will remain, just so you know, on these pages. They're on Facebook Live and they stay there, and they're on Twitter with the Periscope, and I don't even know the language, but they stay there. You can go watch them and skip through, and they also go to the YouTube page. The Kostaki YouTube page has a bunch of really great interviews, including Christy Lee, who is a fantastic guest. And there's a bunch of them: Josh Arnold and Jimmy Pardo, and Donnie Baker. Donnie Baker came and talked to us. That was fascinating. He did like so many characters in an hour. It was amazing.
Dude, one of my favorite things is hanging out in the green room with him, and he just goes from James Gandolfini, to Dr. Phil, to
Tim
Floyd
Wilson.
the trucker.
I love the Tim Wilson.
Oh yeah, Tim Wilson.
It's like getting in a time machine and listening to Tim. It's great.
I love it.
Yeah. Thanks for being here, Jeff. We really appreciate it, man.
Thanks for having me.
Check out Jeff's podcast coming back in a couple of months. Dockheads?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
There's you can check it out online now. There's plenty of previous episodes that you can get caught up in the meantime.
Spell Dockheads so people can find it.
DOCHEADS.
Okay. All right. Come to All Pro Lines. Come listen to Quick Snaps, the podcast. Come back here next week. We'll have another great guest, 9 p.m. We're going straight through the holidays. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Happy holidays. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. I guess that's the closer. I'm sorry that's how we end. But thanks, Jeff.
Thanks for having me.